Hey guys, today I'm going to tell you about the time I made an AI's game idea in a single day. But first, why? Basically, at the start of the year, I was going through what I wanted to do in the coming months on the side, and so I wrote down some goals for the near future. And so far, I've failed pretty badly at them. One of the goals for March was to make a small game. I only said small because I have a game project I've been working on since about a month before the year started, so I didn't want to sidetrack an older project for a newer one. But that leads me to the next part. I didn't have any ideas for this small game, and so I answered this problem in perhaps the most 2023 way I could and asked an AI. Specifically, Chat GPT was the chosen one. And after one reply that really didn't give me any inspiration, I asked again, this time specifying unique ideas. So it's still probably a stolen idea, but I never took the time to Google it, so I'll assume it's okay. Anyhow, I found what I wanted. A unique enough idea that I actually knew how to implement very easily, only using Unity's built-in features. The concept is to make a color matching platformer, or basically a platformer where you have to match the color of the platforms to proceed. Personally, I know there's a few different ways to approach this, and each have their own merits, but I went for something very easy, because remember, I'm trying to build this in a day. So here's what I determined to be the rules of my game. Gray tiles are neutral, and you can always interact with them. Red, green, and blue tiles are all tiles that you have to color match to be able to touch. The player will always be able to control their color using Q and D. This way, when moving with W, A, and D, you'll be able to tap your preferred color as needed. And that's it. Beyond that, there's the essentials of the genre. A level-based system where you have to reach a goal to proceed, and since it's a platformer, the player can jump and move directionally. It's basic whilst also not being a direct clone of any multitude of arcade classics like Snake, Pong, Space Invaders, etc. This game is also admittedly going to be part of my online portfolio when I'm job hunting, and I don't think companies like the idea of me writing, "I made a Snake clone," so I'm trying to do more unique stuff. Anyhow, here's how some things work in Unity. Since this video is about making it, and not just taking an AI's idea. It's actually super simple, and if you're a beginner programmer, you can probably follow along as well. So I actually started with art of all things. I made a super simple character sprite, and then simply used the paint bucket tool to change its color 2 times, and I was done. There were, however, issues with importing them into Unity, since suddenly, the white of the eyes would disappear. Well, a page in the manual about pixel-perfect cameras actually had a good guide on importing sprites that mentioned how to take care of pixel art sprites, so I'll talk about it briefly here. First, make sure there's no smoothing happening by changing its filter mode to point, and now it'll be showing its true pixels. Then change compression from normal quality to none. Apparently, a compression algorithm thought my 8x8 sprite was too big to be left alone. And then also change pixels per unit from 100 to whatever you like, so the size will be treated more consistently. This admittedly took way more time than I wanted it to in order to figure it out. Partially because I thought I was going insane and tried different sprite variations to see if I could make something that worked properly. But when that was all over, development went extremely smoothly, which was weird. You know you're a real programmer when your first attempt at coding something goes perfectly. Not because that's a great feeling, but because you only feel anxiety about what you messed up without triggering any alarms. I guess one of the main culprits of this is that I stole the player control code from a game project I worked on and scrapped last year. Yes, I, like Vettel, copy and paste.
You're copying and pasting.
I made some simple modifications to meet the needs of the game, like the core mechanic of shifting colors. So maybe I should explain this part in a bit more detail in case anyone's curious. Basically, everything within Unity works within layers, especially physics and visual effects utilize layers extensively. So I made each color its own layer and then configured them in Unity not to collide with each other. Then I made a grid with multiple tile maps attached to it. Each tile map was then assigned its own layer of red, green, or blue. Then I made it so that when the player presses Q or E, they will cycle through these layers, and I actually coded this bit slightly differently than I would have in the past. Basically, I made a class, which is just a fancy way of saying a format for holding data in a consistent manner. This class knew what color it was, what color was next, and what color was previous. This is called a linked list, and it has some drawbacks, but in reality, I'm pretty sure those are negated for reasons, and I think it makes for cleaner code. When a user presses Q, it will swap them to the previous color, and then E will go to the next. I like this approach better than looping through an array because I don't have to check for underflow or the overflow in code, and since it's just 3 objects, I'm not really concerned about memory usage. Now, some of you might realize that I'm handling this in a way that's probably going to be very buggy. And you'd be right, it's extremely buggy. There's many ways to break the game if you try, but it works and it's a small game, so it's not exactly my biggest concern. This is something I've slowly learned over time. Some things are just not going to be perfect, and trying to perfect them is a bit of a futile task. You can either be happy with being 99% there, or suffer the consequences. In this case, I chose speed over everything else, and so my first idea is my only idea. After I had this system of being able to change color implemented and working surprisingly quickly, the only other coding I did was some simple things like making the player sprite flip when it's going left, adding sounds to jumping and finishing a level, background music, and making the text that's at the intro and ending work properly. Some of this I didn't record working on because I still have other things to do in life, and unfortunately, it was done during the rest of the day in between tasks. But I did finish, and so here's the game. Its official name is Color GB Full, which is quite a mouthful and a dumb pun. And maybe this is the best time to mention that I didn't make everything in this game. The music and sound effects especially are from opengameart.org, where I found public domain music and sounds that I credit in the game and use to my satisfaction. And I'll just say that I'm extremely grateful to the artists that freely make their stuff available for developers to use. It's a genuine great service to everyone, and I hope these guys are successful in all their endeavors. And, okay, maybe this is not the greatest game ever. It doesn't even have a title screen or options menu. It won't win any awards, but I had my idea, and I made it. Maybe I should have made it harder with death and more mechanics, but I purposefully did the minimum. And this was the result. A working, simple game. A part of me loves it, but I don't think I would like it if it was made by someone else. And personally, I think that's okay. I did what I set out to do, and I'm satisfied enough by that. And maybe I'll have more follow-up videos in the future on expanding this simple game and with very simple mechanics like spike traps, projectiles, and enemies, etc. But for now, this is where I'll end this project. If you want to download it and play the whole 2-minute game, there's a link down below. I might even do a build for browsers if I can manage it before I release this video. In that case, it'll be hosted directly on my own site, where you'll be able to play it in browser below. And before you click off this video, could you do me a favor and tell me if you like this kind of thing? I normally do gaming content, so a comment about what I did right would be appreciated. Or at least hitting the like button is all the encouragement I need to make more. I might do another coding video soon about how I made my own overcomplicated method of merging multiple stream chats into one, so subscribe if you want to hear tales of me going insane whilst coding. Anyhow, I appreciate everyone watching this, and as always, peace.